WrestleMania 36 has come and gone with all of its 18 matches spread out over 2 nights. First ever 2-night WrestleMania. It was, on the whole, I thought, a middle-of-the-road mania. It was hampered by the fact that it never really felt like a WrestleMania, no matter how hard they pretended that it was. It was WrestleMania in name only. But it wasn't without its share of good matches and good moments. You know, I never would have predicted, in a million years, I never would have predicted going into this show that The Undertaker would have the best match, if you can call it a match, on either night, while Edge and Randy Orton would have one of the worst. That was one prediction I did not see coming. I like the SmackDown Tag Team title ladder match, even though it wasn't a tag team match. As we saw here with this match, and also on NXT this week with the women, it is not easy to do an empty arena ladder match. It is not an easy thing to do, but I thought at WrestleMania they pulled it off. I thought it was very entertaining. Otis, my boy Otis, finally got his big kiss from his peach, as he calls her, Mandy Rose. That was maybe the best moment of the whole weekend. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, they had a very good match. Charlotte and Rhea Ripley had an excellent match for the NXT Women's Championship. There's been a lot of talk about Rhea Ripley, that her visa expired and she's back in Australia. She's not back in Australia. She is still here. Although I do believe that initial report from PW Insider about the visa, I do think there's smoke there. It may well be that she has a visa issue that's going to have to be worked out. Did that have to do with why she lost? Who knows? Probably not. There are a lot of people who predicted that Charlotte Flair was going to take that championship without even thinking about a visa issue. So it's very possible that regardless of that, Charlotte was going to win the championship no matter what, and I still disagree with that call. But I thought their match was excellent, and I loved the Boneyard match with Biker Undertaker literally burying, AJ Styles. The Firefly Funhouse match on night 2 was bizarre. It was not a match, but I appreciate the storytelling that they were going for with the match. You can tell Bray had his fingerprints all over that thing. Apparently John Cena was very hands-on with that match as well. He made some changes that supposedly improved what we saw. But I did not like the Last Man Standing match with Edge and Randy Orton, and I really wanted to. I came into this, I was really pumped. I thought the story's been great. The promo work has been great. Orton's done some of the best work in years. Edge looked like he never, looked and sounded like he never skipped a beat. I really wanted to like that match, but the length of the match was the big killer. And not just the length. I don't want to just put it all on the length. The length was the biggest part of why I just ended up really hating this match. But there were, more than a few sluggish parts of the match as well. But the length, I just thought it was boring as hell. And I cannot put all the blame on Edge and Randy Orton on this. This was a taped match that Edge claims they had to improvise things. Something changed and, at the last minute, they just had to go into it and just kind of wing it. So when you're kind of winging it, you really don't have a plan. Sometimes you lose track of time. And maybe it didn't feel like a 46-minute match to the two of them as they were going along. It certainly felt like one to the people watching. But I can't even blame Edge and Orton. This was a taped match. They had this thing in the can for 10 days? 2 weeks? How does not one person watch that thing back and say, you know what? Let's tighten this up a little bit. Let's cut 10 minutes, 12 minutes out of this. 15 minutes out of it. It'll make the match better. We have some grunting over here. We have more punches and kicks over here. Let's trim the fat. Nobody thought to do that? No, I listened to Edge talking to Corey Graves on his After the Bell podcast this week, talk about how proud he was of the match. And I'm sure he was. The man was retired for 9 years. He came back. He wrestled over a 40-minute match. He looked great. I'd be proud of that too. It was great to see Edge back. When here's a guy that I never thought that we would see him in the ring again, not at WrestleMania, not anywhere. I thought the guy's done. He's not going to get cleared. He's got triple fusion in his neck. He's doing movies. He's doing TV shows. It's been almost a decade. He's moved on with his life. I never expected to see Edge back in the ring. But he talked about hearing that from fans, who thought the match was too long and that, all the feedback that I've got personally, my social media feeds, he said, was all positive. I didn't see any of that. That's what I heard, but all the feedback I've seen has been nothing but 100% positive. That's what he said, 100% positive. He said Bret Hart called him and told him that he loved the match because he thought it looked like a fight. He said Bret Hart said it looked like a real fight. And if Bret Hart says that he loved his match, then Edge said, I don't care what anybody else says from that point on, because Bret Hart's opinion has more weight than absolutely anybody else. And I have no problem with him saying that. I wouldn't expect any friends or colleagues of his to go, man, that match was way too long. What do you, either they're walking up to him, first match back in 9 years, they're going to go walk up to his face and go, brother, man, you look great, but boy, man, that match, I was passing out back here. His fans are going to love it, of course, no matter what. They're just happy to see Edge back in the ring. And look, if the other wrestlers thought the match was great, if Bret Hart thought the match was great, then that's wonderful. That's great. Wrestling is, as he said, as Edge said during the interview, it is a very subjective thing. It is art. And everybody interprets art in different ways. That's not my issue with what Edge said. My issue came with what he said after that. He said, Randy and I have broad shoulders and we can weather the weight of a minuscule militia of malcontents who just want to complain about everything. Complain about the length of a wrestling match during a pandemic? Really? But they are also the same people that are going to complain that Bill and Brock go for 4 minutes. I just think there is a segment of people that enjoy not enjoying things and dwell on negatives, but I focus on positives. What a garbage take from Edge there in that statement. And that is very disappointing because I have a lot of respect for the guy, but this is yet another example of a WWE talent attacking their own fan base because they are too thin-skinned to accept any criticism. It feels like this is becoming a trend. Now, I'm not saying that there is not a minority of people out there who enjoy not liking things. Now, I'm not even disputing that last little chunk of what he said there. Because, of course, there's always going to be a minority, a small minority of people who get off on that type of thing or just love to troll or whatever their deal is. But to lump those people in with the people who did not enjoy the match because they thought it went too long, which is basically what he did there, is horseshit. Total and complete horseshit. And that's what he's doing there. So allow me to speak for myself on this, because I was one of those people who got bored the longer the match went. First of all, I have to say this, minuscule militia of malcontents would make an awesome name for a heel faction. I don't know if he came up with that off the top of his head. I think he created a better piece of art with that one new name than anything he did in the WrestleMania match with Randy Orton. Me not liking some of the matches that I saw at WrestleMania does not make me a malcontent. It makes me a fan who is capable of forming an opinion of my own. I am not a drone. I am not a bot. I'm able to think for myself and speak for myself. Just because that doesn't match up, just because that opinion does not match up with yours, does not make me a malcontent. I loved the build to this match heading into WrestleMania. For weeks, you guys heard me on the podcast. I said the match that I think is the best promoted coming into WrestleMania this year was Edge and Randy Orton. Every twist, the stuff with Beth, Edge's wife coming on TV, all of it I thought was great. I did not find satisfaction in the way that they got to the payoff, which was Edge winning in the end. That does not make me a malcontent. To say that because it took place under, unusual circumstances, people don't have the right to criticize the length of a match. Who comes up with this shit? Seriously, who comes up complaining about the length of a match in a pandemic? Oh, you're not allowed to do that. Who comes up with this nonsense, this nonsensical view? Their last man standing match was the second longest match in WrestleMania history. Second longest. Second only to the Iron Man match of WrestleMania 12. It beat out the WrestleMania 2000 Fatal 4-Way. main event by about 20 seconds. Less than 20 seconds. I think the last man standing stipulation hurt the match. It dragged on just too much in a lot of parts. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying that, nor should anybody be labeled a malcontent for believing that. But to say that these are the same people, right? That's what he's saying here. The same people that enjoy not liking things and they're only going to dwell on the negatives is insulting to their own audience. I count myself among the people who cared more about that match coming into WrestleMania than I did most of the other matches on the card. To suggest that my opinion doesn't count because I didn't like the match, he's living in his own little bubble, which is probably good given everything that's going on. He'll be safe. If ever there was a time to live in a bubble, now is the time. But he is living in his own little bubble. By the way, when Bill and Brock, as he says, I know he was referring to their individual matches this year, but Bill and Brock went 6 minutes in their own match, one-on-one at WrestleMania a few years ago. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was one of the best matches at WrestleMania 33. You know what else I thought was great? The Boneyard match. I loved it. You know what else I loved? The NXT Women's title match. You know what I don't like? When wrestlers dismiss every little criticism as nothing more than whiny trolling because of their own insecurity. It doesn't mean their opinion means any less than the fans who tell him how great that they thought his match was. You know, AJ Styles, he was on Mixer playing games the other day. He was thanking everybody for the positive feedback to his match with The Undertaker. But he acknowledged that some people may not have liked it. He said it was definitely different. Some people may not have liked it, and he understands it. That's a sensible answer. He said for every 100 people who liked his match, there may have been 2 or 3 people who didn't. But he understands it. Imagine that. Imagine a wrestler not attacking the fans for not liking his match. What a concept. I thought Edge was better than that. I guess I was wrong. And I say that after watching his WWE 24 documentary on the network, the Second Mountain, it's called, which I think is the best documentary that WWE has ever produced. And they have produced a lot of great documentaries. I think this was probably the best one that I've ever seen. You cannot help but want to root for a guy to succeed when you're done, or this guy, to succeed when you're done watching it, and feel good about him being able to come back and do the one thing that, you know, he loves more than anything else in the world. And they got lucky too, because as Edge said at the beginning, when this documentary filming began, it was going to be a very different documentary. They did not know, he did not know, when they began filming, that he was going to come back to the ring. It's like Bret Hart with Wrestling with Shadows. You know, that documentary started filming a year earlier when Bret signed that 20-year contract to stay with WWE. They started, you know, that guy Paul Jay wanted to do a documentary about Bret's career and his life. Bret had no idea what was going to happen a year later in Montreal, but they got this wonderful climax in this documentary with some backstage footage. They didn't get the punch, unfortunately, of him punching Vince in the face, but, you know, that left, what was it, the right hook or the left hook that knocked him off his feet? They had the cameras turned off, unfortunately, for that. But, you know, sometimes you just get lucky with these things. And Edge says when this documentary began filming, this was going to be something very different than what it turned out to be. And it wasn't until after Edge took a header off his bicycle while he was filming with Sheamus. Sheamus has this great YouTube channel called Celtic Warrior Workouts, where he goes around, I guess he's not going anywhere right now, but he goes around to gyms with not just other WWE stars, but even some celebrities and other people. And he interviews them, and then they go into that person's workout. Sheamus wants to try different workouts. So he's been working out with some of the guys, with some of the women. I watched one he did with Xia Li at the WWE Performance Center. Xia Li from NXT, and she was running Sheamus ragged. I mean, she had this guy, he was huffing and he let out a brogue fart by accident, which was kind of funny. It blew her back. But, like, his videos are great. And a number of months ago, he had gone, I guess, to visit Edge in North Carolina, where Edge lives. And they went bike riding. And there's this steep, it must be on a mountain somewhere. It's this steep bike path. It looks like fun, but it's dangerous as all hell. And Sheamus is wearing a GoPro. Edge is riding his bike in front of Sheamus. They're going down this hill. And Edge, he must have just hit a bump. And he went flying off of his bike. And he basically no-sold it. He kind of got right back up. He's like, oh, I'm okay. And then he's showing, he got scraped up pretty bad on his thigh, his arm and everything. But he said that it was after he took that bump, basically, that he realized, I feel fine. The way he landed, he would have expected to, his neck or whatever. He goes, I felt great. I felt fine. And that's when he started to think, I wonder. So then he did the spear to Elias on the SummerSlam kickoff show, which his wife, Beth, did not know he was going to do. She thought he was going out there to do a promo, not to get physical, so she wasn't very happy with him after that. But it was after seeing that he was contacted by AEW. Now, he never named AEW with those letters, but he did say that he got a call from this other wrestling company, and they wanted to make him an offer. Now, the offer, supposedly, he didn't get into this, but supposedly the rumor at the time was the offer was going to be for him to wrestle a few big matches each year, but, full-time he'd become a backstage agent or a producer behind the scenes for AEW. And he was honest, and he told them, and I assume it was Tony Khan who he talked to, and he told them, he said, look, if you are going to make me an offer, before you do, just know that I am going to take it to Vince McMahon. I have to take it to Vince McMahon. He's given me so much, and he's always treated me well, and I at least want to make him aware of what's going on. And he did. He called Vince and said, we need to talk face to face. We can't do this over the phone. And they had a meeting, and he told Vince, listen, this is what is being presented to me. And Vince McMahon told him, well, if you're going to do this, then you need to do it here. So let's get you a meeting with the doctors and see what they think as far as you possibly getting cleared and coming back to the ring. And that's when he got the ball rolling on being medically evaluated, and then he got cleared. And they shipped a ring to his house for him to put up in his garage because he didn't want the news to get out. He said, look, if I go to the PC and I start training, everybody's going to see me. They're going to put two and two together and know that I'm coming back. He goes, I'm a wrestling fan. I miss the days when we had surprises in wrestling. With the internet and social media now, it's almost impossible to keep things a secret. He desperately wanted this to be a big surprise. And even still, the news got out. He denied it. He jumped on Twitter a couple of times. Every time there would be a new report about Edge re-signing a new deal, and he was spotted in Pittsburgh he's probably there getting his medicals, which he denied all of it. And then in the special, he admitted, yeah, of course, I was in Pittsburgh. Of course, I was in Pittsburgh to meet with Dr. Maroon, but I didn't want people to know that. So he had the ring sent to his house, and, he started training, trying to get his timing back and trying to get into ring shape, and Dash Wilder of the Revival, I did not know. Edge had met him for the first time years earlier when Wilder was working at the gym, I guess, that Edge was frequenting at the time. And Edge is the one who got a tape of Dash Wilder's work over to John Laurinaitis to try to get him a foot in the door with WWE. So Wilder in the special, he shows up to Edge's house. He's in his garage. He's going to train with him in the ring. They have footage of all of this. They talk about Edge's mom, his mother, Judy, who passed away in 2018. He talked about how much she believed in him. She kept all of his old drawings, all of his old just items and stuff. Anything he ever worked on, she was like super mom. And he said, I wouldn't be where I am today, were it not for my mom. And that resonated with me because my mother was the same way. I wouldn't be who I am today, were it not for her. My mother died the same year that Edge's mom passed away. So watching him talk about her, it got me, it got to me. It got to me. And then, of course, showing his return at the Royal Rumble, how they hid him away, what it was like backstage that night, just pure emotion. This entire documentary was built on pure emotion, and it was the best special, I think, of its kind that they've done. And I don't want to end this on a sour note. I was really disappointed with the comments he made on that Corey Graves podcast, or at least the way that he framed those comments. lumping everybody together like that, but it doesn't make this episode here any less great. And I recommend that everybody carve out, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. Carve out an hour and 15 minutes out of your day to make sure you can check this out.